What is up, everybody? We're back again for one more episode. We have Ricky from Pointer, and he runs one of the best SDR companies in Australia. Yes, for the rare occasion, we are speaking to an Australian over here. Ricky, thank you for jumping on board. I will jump straight into the questions. Why do people pay you what they pay you?
I mean, fundamentally, it's because they want a higher likelihood of success.
Okay.
I tell all of my clients, you'll 100% get outbound right. You'll figure it out. You're a clever person. You'll definitely get it right. But you've never done it before, so you probably won't get it right on your first try. You'll learn from your first failure, and then your second try, you'll get a bit closer. And you'll learn from that, and your third try, you'll get a little bit closer too. And eventually, you'll get it right, and you'll be an expert. But if you want to get it right on this next go, well, then you've got to use someone who's already had all of those learnings and all of those failures previously.
Fair enough.
And that's Pointer. You know, we're doing a hell of a lot of outbound. We know what's working, we know what's not working, and we get our clients a high likelihood of success first time around.
Fair enough. So you are a systemized SDR company, if I want to sort of summarize it.
Look, I wouldn't say so much systemized. Every single one of our clients is pretty unique in the approach, the channel, the messaging. We do one-to-one hiring, so we will hire a rep specifically for one client. So they are, for all intents and purposes, a full-time employee of that company, although they're employed by Pointer. So we handle all the HR risk, etc. We just fully enable this individual with daily training, with the right research, with the right tools, someone listening to their calls, someone coaching them up, someone making sure that every single thing that they're doing is on target. And if it's not getting success, you know, do we need to adjust the message? Do we need to adjust the audience? What do we need to do to iterate this through to getting the outcomes that we want? All of that done through Pointer as a service. So it's kind of like hiring an SDR in-house, except that SDR coming with a director of business development and a copywriter and a personal researcher and someone in RevOps, you know, and sales leadership, all in one bag.
All in one. All right. You've sort of set a perfect segue for my second question. A lot of people speak about like optimization, hiring one-to-one for clients, and also taking care of all that headaches there. But as someone who's done this day and night as a business, what are some of the common mistakes people make when hiring SDRs? Because clearly that is not an easy thing to do.
There is so much that goes into running a successful outbound campaign. 99% of what will determine if your outbound is going to be successful is not the SDR. The SDR needs to be great, don't get me wrong, but they could be making the best cold calls in the world, calling the wrong people. It won't help. The messaging could be off point. Then the call doesn't matter. So you need the right market. You need the right message. You need the right channel. You need the right tactics and approach. And none of those should be left up to your most new junior hire to determine. So these are all strategic decisions that need to be implemented by the SDR. So I think that's where most people get it wrong. And they think I'm just going to hire someone who's going to make phone calls, and they expect that to work. There is a daily process of iterating up to success for this to eventually work. And if you don't have the leadership, the management, the support, the enablements in place for that SDR, there's just, I think 70% of SDRs aren't on target. And that includes the SDRs that have dedicated SDR managers, who have a director of business development, who reports to a VP of sales, who reports to a chief revenue officer, and have every bloody bell and whistle in the world. 70% are failing. So if you think that you, as a founder or a CEO or a single, an individual contributor is going to be able to fully manage this outbound rep, it just doesn't work out well. More often than not.
Makes sense. Okay. And then to alleviate that, what are things, a large part of any business has to come with operating procedures or standard operating processes, right? That helps people sort of stay on point. I think as someone who's also going through this right now, I can completely understand that it's not just hire and let them do it. There's an iterative process. There's a cycle behind maintenance, ensuring that they're on target, and tutorials, teaching, blah, 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 everything that comes with it. So if you can help me sort of understand, when creating SOPs for hiring staff, what are some key points to include? Maybe 2 or 3 points that you see clearly, since I've added this particular point or this operating procedure, it's fundamentally changed how successful my company has been at systemizing and optimizing. Systemizing.
So you're talking about specifically what we look for in the hiring process?
Well, we can go into both, right? What do we look for in the hiring process? And then once you hire the person that you think fits the bill, what are 3 things that you make sure that they do to set them up for success?
All right. So in the hiring process, I still don't think we've gotten this perfect. I think our hiring process is slightly too intense in that it's taking up a lot of time and effort and resources. So I'd love to find a way to make it more efficient. But we're happy to hire outliers, and we're happy to look for that diamond in the rough. We don't look for someone with tech sales experience, because to me, it's a catch-22. You want someone with tech sales experience, that's fine. They might know what to do, but they're also 6 months away from wanting a promotion. So your retention goes down. There's a lot of those catches when hiring junior sales roles. We look for people that are brave, that are curious, that are humble, that are coachable, and that's like have a vision. They know more or less that they want to do something, and they want to become an expert at selling. Whether that's because they want to found their own business, they want to be an entrepreneur, they appreciate that selling is worthwhile. Super keen on those people. Big picture thinkers, strategic thinkers. That's what I'm all about for the actual SDR. And we don't have any mold. Like, doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from. This job, like you can do on the phone. Yeah. You can be in your pajamas. Yeah. We're looking for very different things. Yeah. In terms of what we found when hiring them, I think a big one, everyone's scared of the phone. Yeah. That's number one. Everyone's scared of the phone when they start this job. So firstly, we found we weren't that good at coaching out call reluctance. We could do it. Don't get me wrong. We could train people away from their call reluctance. But it was much harder and much more intense. So now that is something we try to look for in our hiring process is people without call reluctance. They can be slightly anxious about calling. Everyone is, and I don't think that you ever get over that. But we try to hire people without call reluctance simply because we're remote. We don't have all the tools needed to remotely coach out that reluctance. But we get people on the phones quickly. We get them on the phones as quick as possible. We don't let that anxiety build up, then practice a script a million times. Get on the phones, and we really embrace that failure. Get on the phone, doesn't matter. Any call's a good call. You made the dial, you had a conversation, that's an amazing learning. And with time, people start learning. First and foremost, their tone matters. The script doesn't even really. They start getting success on the phones, even when they're stuffing everything up. And all of a sudden, it's not so scary. They realize, the number one tactic for the phone is just pick up the phone, and you will get good outcomes. And once that sets in, then they realize, I don't have to be so scared of this. I can have a shit call and still have a good call because I get the outcome I want.
No, that sounds right. So pretty much if I want to summarize this, you want to look for someone who has drive, passion, entrepreneurial, whatever they need to be, but they need to be big picture, need to be beyond just the job. The second thing is you want to make sure you want to set this person up to sort of execute as soon as possible. So that mindset needs to be just deliver. It doesn't matter if you screwed up. We're here to be there with you. We're here to embrace failure. But the sooner and more you pick up the phone call, eventually it kicks off. And I think, like you said, I do agree. Tone sort of transcends across, video, voice, body, and text is when they can sense the other person being enthusiastic. The recipient is also going to be enthusiastic. So that sounds absolutely fair and fine with me.
But also understand our process is a little bit unique in that our SDRs don't have to figure anything out. When they rock up, their sales engagement platform is set up. Leads have been researched for them. Script has been written for them. Sequences have been written. Emails been written. I'll just have tasks in front of them to do. Right. All they have to do to start with is be a voice actor at the end of the phone.
Makes sense.
Once they are successful, once that is, and importantly, if this doesn't work, it's not their fault. They were a tiny piece of that whole puzzle. The whole thing. So if it doesn't work, it's not them. It's our management. It's our leadership. It's our strategy that was off. So they cannot fail to begin with. Provided
so you set them up for success. That's the rule, right? It's your job to set them up for success.
Absolutely. Once they're getting success, and now 3 months later, hey, we're looking to pick up a new vertical. Now they can learn about the research process themselves, or they can try adopt a script for themselves, whatever it might be. Now they can start building in some autonomy. Yeah. But until they are successful, it's on me.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I want to pick on an interesting point you made there, and you sort of raised it very briefly off our camera, which was research is difficult, and I think everyone will agree on that premise. Is research is difficult in an ever so information overload market. So, what are some things that you're doing right now? I know you're going through the weeds, but what are some things that you're doing right now to sort of embrace that, or perhaps make it easier to step aside when you want to find unique data points?
So I think, firstly, we're breaking all of our campaigns into two categories. Persona-based categories are persona-based campaigns and trigger-based campaigns. So persona-based is, hey, we're looking for HR managers of enterprise organizations that employ 5,000 plus people who are in this industry, whatever it is. And we want to talk to them about this evergreen problem that they have, payroll, whatever it might be. That's persona-based. Trigger-based includes a timely matter that's like, why now? Right, they've just hired someone, they've just fired someone, they've just started their job, they just received funding. There's about a list of 30 different triggers that we have that we can look for. So trigger-based campaigns are the gold standard. It's where we always want to get to. We sometimes start persona-based when we have a broad total addressable market and we're looking for feedback from the market. You know, if I can win 10, then I can look at those 10 and say, what do those 10 have in common? I can start finding interesting triggers. So we do a lot of testing and iterating on both ends. Why I bring that up is that the research is very different. Persona-based research is relatively easy. Finding email addresses is practically free for a business these days. Like, I mean, whatever. Like, you could get every email address in the world for a couple $100.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's not a huge challenge. And you can validate it with a whole different tool. Like, simple. Mobile numbers still relatively expensive. And we obviously do a lot of calling. And then you need good tool sets to be able to get the numbers you need. But broadly, persona-based research, quite straightforward. It's the trigger-based that really starts getting complicated.
Okay.
Right. You want me to give you an example of like what this looks like, how we use research to win, right? So we have a product called Sales Management as a Service. We manage other people's SDR reps. No need for them to outsource a rep to us. Or they want to hire a rep in-house for whatever reason, but they don't have someone who's available to call, coach them every day, monitor their activity, coach them up, enable them, and do everything that we would do for our reps in-house. So we offer this as a service, relatively cheap service, like $1,000 a month for a rep. So now what are our options? We do persona-based, like what everyone else would do. They would go find companies that are hiring SDRs. And they would send to that sales manager or that HR manager, hey, you're hiring an SDR. Would you be interested in sales management as a service? That's what 99% of the market is prospecting at. Here's what Pointer would do differently. We would look for that company that's hiring the SDR. We would then look into that company and check if they have a dedicated SDR manager already. If they don't already have a dedicated SDR manager, they're more likely to buy. We'd go one step further. Yeah. We'd look for a company that hires SDRs, doesn't have an SDR manager, and has recently had churn. Now I know that pain is prevalent. Then I would look for companies who hire SDRs, don't have an SDR manager, recently had churn, and the SDR department reports to marketing and not sales.
Right.
Because I know they have less of an interest generally in running SDR departments, but very often it falls under marketing for good reason. Then I'd look for companies who hire SDRs, don't have an SDR manager, recently had churn, reports to marketing, and has a new CMO. And finally, I'd look for companies who hire SDRs, don't have a dedicated SDR manager, recently had churn, reports to marketing, has a new CMO, and that CMO did not run an SDR department at their previous company. That is the person I want to talk to.
Makes sense.
And those are the deals I'm going to be able to win far more easily. But that's a research problem, not an outreach problem.
So just really dive in very quickly. So how much of the sales job is research versus actually, because it almost feels like if I do the research part right, the selling is stupid. It's dumb. It's almost easy, right?
100. The benefit of bringing that sales acumen, so to speak, to the research is that's your strategy. That is your tightly defined ICP. It's repeatable. It can be developed at the top. And if you find one that works, like the example I just gave you, if you find one that works, it is so repeatable. It's not based on a particular human skill set. You can scale that globally. So absolutely, like if you get that right, you don't need someone who's a whiz bang on the phone. Because if I send that person an email, and here's the other beauty of it.
I think I lost you.
If I was sending this first at that level 1, just hiring SDRs, if I'm sending them a cold email,
Hello?
what do I say? Hey, you're hiring SDRs? Do you want to make your SDRs more efficient? Like, what a bloody generic message. I'm just going to look like every other piece of spam they get. I could try personalize it by saying, hey, I saw you played golf on the weekend. You want to know how to get a hole-in-one? Use Pointer for your SDR management. And you get that weak personalization trying to tie it to relevancy. But if I'm messaging that company at that level 10 research, and I could message the CMO saying, hey, CMO, I see you running an SDR department for the first time, and it's pretty painful for you. I imagine that's pretty painful for you. I'm sure you are tied down by the churn in the department. Would you be interested in a solution that helps increase retention, increase outcomes, and doesn't require any additional input from you? That person will be super keen. And I haven't had to personalize it for that individual because the research has gone to the degree that I know they will be interested.
I've come to learn, just like you said, if you find the right persona, right person, the copy can be crappy dog shit for all you care. People will end up buying. Which draws that question for me. How important is research as a skill for the SDR?
Oh, it's a really tough question to ask. Personally, I don't think it's a skill that the SDR needs. Because I'm of the firm belief that it is such a specialized skill. We centralize research. We're hiring engineers to really dive deep into solutions where they can find very sophisticated lists. If what you need is a persona-based, you need your SDR to jump onto Sales Navigator, build a very basic list off of who they are, what companies they're at, their job titles, and extract that with contact details, sure. Go buy your Zoom info or whatever other license you need, get your SDR to do that. If you need super complicated, very tight ICPs, which is always going to outperform, it is a very complicated skill with a lot of technical capabilities requirements that it's not something you're going to find in the person who's also keen to sit on the phone all day cold calling. Makes
sense. And that's going to be next to near impossible to get. Yeah. So that's absolutely fair.
Sure. And even once you do invest in all of that, that's not a skill set you also want progressing into a different part of the organization within a year. Like, you really want someone to be able to do that role for a decent amount of time. It's a big investment.
Makes sense. And then, that's fair. Now, what I want to do is I want to sort of change gears and want to go into some basic questions that are based on your social media. You share a lot on LinkedIn, which is great. And you've shared a few points when I was running into that. So first thing you've said is permission slaps are better than pitch slaps. What are CTA strategies, right, people can implement to actually be successful?
So firstly, just that term, permission slaps, I heard it from Harry Sims. I want to give him some credit there. He's a real great thought leader in this space. I think that people think that your call to action is important. And to me, it's not important. Here's why. If you really feel like an ice cream, you really feel like it, and you're walking along the beach, it's a hot day, and you see an ice cream stand, and you really feel like it, the ice cream attendant doesn't have to say, hey, do you want an ice cream? Come over here and get an ice cream. You're going to buy it. You're going to walk there. You're going to do it yourself. So I think once you've understood the problem and you've captured someone who has that problem and you're showing them a solution that they may be interested in, the call to action shouldn't matter because they should now want this. So I think the call to action should really just be the lowest possible bar. The lowest bar to me is the best call to action. Because if I said to you, would you mind if I send you more information? If they were desperate, if they didn't sleep last night at all because of this problem that I'm now talking to them about, they might say, yes, please send me more information. Also, is there a time that we could get together to discuss this in more detail? If they want it, they'll ask. They're not going to not take it because you didn't ask. So to me, low call to actions. If I get a one-word response, to me, that's I've done something right. When they just reply saying, sure. When your responses look like that, sure, that's when you've done something right.
Fair enough. Makes sense. That makes sense to me. Cool. Now that comes to the second point, which is sure, and like someone's more shown interest to go ahead and book a meeting with you. You did then say that instead of having reps being paid per meeting bookings, it should be based upon meetings attended. What made you make that switch?
We originally did meetings booked, and it was a logistical nightmare. Let's just say your target was 10, and you book 12 in a month. That's great. You now get paid. But the meetings are booked for next month, right? So you got paid for this 12, but now 6 of those 12 cancel. There were no-shows. So now what? You got paid for your on-target earnings, but was actually technically only 6 meetings that rocked up. So now what? So now you say, oh, well, you've got a debt of 4 meetings that you need to make up. So now this month you need 14. So you book 14 and you get paid on target earnings, but now 1 doesn't show. So now like you need a fucking accounting system just for meetings. Where you just move that bar to meetings attended and say, hey, you need 10 meetings attended this month. Either there was 10 bums in the seats or there weren't. It's as simple as that. Yeah. You can put other criteria around it. Like obviously the meeting has to be with a qualified individual, blah, blah, blah. But typically we list building. So, we're pointing them at qualified individuals. So we don't need that requirement, but it's okay to have it. But meetings attended, super simple to administer, super simple to understand what it is. You can score things differently if you want a discovery call or a demo. But fundamentally, going off meetings booked is just a recipe for a disaster.
Well, that's fair. Eyes open, that's for sure. Now, I want to run into the last 2 questions. One is the one that I ask everyone. What's your current technical setup or your mailbox configuration that you're seeing giving you the best amount of success?
Sure. So you'll know we've been focused on email delivery since the very get-go. We're doing things now that everyone else is starting to say, oh, you should start doing. Like we haven't been tracking opens for 3 years now. It was always an irrelevant metric to us. Right? I'm tracking replies. That's it. We were not putting unsubscribe in emails long before it was a thing. We just look at everything logically saying, hey, if I worked at Google, how would I block spam? You're like, oh, well, clearly any email that has unsubscribe in it isn't a personal one-to-one email. That shouldn't go in the inbox, right? So we are currently making sure we only put deliverable emails into our sequences. That's a big part of our email operating system. So we will use an email validator. We're currently using ClearOut. They are more or less all the same. We like ClearOut's API, and it has a Google Sheets integration. That's why we happen to like it, but really, any one of them, I think they all do pretty much the same kind of a story. I hear good things about Zero Bounce. We'll try it, we'll include that next. It has a good Clay integration. So email validation number 1. We then are putting our actual SDRs have seats in Outplay. So that is where they're doing their calling, SMSing, and personalized one-to-one email from. In Outplay, you can only have 2 inboxes. So we will put a core inbox in there where they're doing follow-ups, where they're doing business as usual stuff, and 1 prospecting email if it's like risky, cold, or unknown. But obviously now we're limited to like 35 to 50 emails a day from those inboxes. So that is for our high quality, low volume. When we're going high volume, there's only one platform to use. I don't know if you know them. No, we use SmartLead. Like the things that happen there that are essential for us, like multiple domains, inbox rotation, MX lookups, plain text, ability to send us plain text, and that doesn't mean HTML. That doesn't mean only text sent in HTML emails. All the rest of it can be achieved in other things like not sending, no images, no links, etc. But obviously need to warm up the inboxes. I'm really grateful to you for building this. I wonder if it was off my feature request, but we've always slowly ramped down our warm up as we ramp up our campaigns. Now that's just one click. Fuck, so good, so good. Thank you for that. We're using SmartLead for our volume email. We aren't doing so well with our inbox management. It's complicated when you've got a couple of hundred inboxes or however many it is. And yeah, like with that setup, I can almost guarantee that the email will land in the inbox. And that's what we say to our clients. I'll guarantee you this email will go to your client's inbox, to your prospect's inbox. Whether they are interested in it or not depends on your
That's
market,
secondary.
depends on your product, depends on your message. We'll help you with all of that. But fundamentally, we're not going to be able to sell us to an Eskimo. So hopefully, let's try find a message that resonates. Either way, we aim for replies. But even like we just ran a campaign now that we had 20% response rate, which I think I'm over the moon about. That's a bloody phenomenal response
rate.
That's
really good. Yeah.
All negative. Not like, F off, I don't want to speak to you, but like actual responses saying, we're not interested, this isn't for us,
we're not interested,
we don't need
this.
Legitimately not interested, which was amazing because if I only got ignores and I only had a 1% response rate, I wouldn't know if there was a problem with my campaign, a problem with my message, or a problem with the product. Whereas getting 20% response rates and them all saying they're not interested, amazing. I can go to this founder and say, hey, this vertical does not seem to have the pain that we thought they did or that you thought they did. This was a wrong assumption and we should target a different vertical. And I can say that emphatically. So smart lead, big part of it. Trying to think what else goes into our email. Obviously setting up the domains. What a nightmare. Last year, the year 2022, the biggest hack on the market using Zoho for your inboxes. That was fun while it lasted. Not so much anymore. So we're back onto probably a mix of Microsoft and Google.
Gmail.
Gmail and 365. We do still have about 20% in Zoho. And interestingly enough, some of the warmed up Zoho emails are still delivering exceptionally well, but we're not putting new on there for now. It will change again. We use block apps to monitor DMARC. We do seed testing for every inbox every week. So we'll send that to 50 emails, see if it lands in the inbox, spam, promotions folder, or whatever else.
Nice. That's cool. Nice.
It's essential. It's otherwise, like, how do you determine which inboxes aren't getting delivered anymore? It's so hard these days. So we're doing seed testing, the DMARC management through block apps, pretty nice. I think that's and the rest of it really comes down to research. Then you just need good leads going in and good messaging. So we've got a dedicated researcher. Enough. We've actually got we've got 2 dedicated full-time researchers and a service that we use if we've got any other additional overflow needs. We subscribe to fucking half the bloody data services in the world. And we've got an in-house copywriter.
Cool. Ricky, I think I've picked your brain enough and you've taught me enough for me to go ahead and read this entire video a few times and figure out how I want to sort out my SDRs. But for those who are interested to get in touch with you, to learn, speak, maybe even consult, what's the best place?
Ricky at pointerstrategy.com.au. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Like, I love outbound. I'm passionate about it. I have something to learn from everyone. And so if you're in this industry, just connect with me. Just connect. I'm going to accept it because I'm only on LinkedIn to network. And in fact, if you want to send me a pitch slap, I'm pretty keen on that as well. I love seeing people's outbound approaches. So I'm always going to accept your outreach.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I don't want to sort of put this out there saying Ricky is amongst a few people that is highly regarded and reputed in any circle that I'm part of. So follow his LinkedIn. If anything, you learn a bunch of really cool stuff. I do learn a lot of cool stuff from him as well. So that's great. Thank you for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one.